John McKechnie, welcome to State Line and congratulations on your retirement and your book.
Thank you, Nadia.
Now, in your book, you say your work has been a fascinating way to observe the human condition. Can you give us a snapshot of the human condition that you observed?
Well, over the years, I've obviously had many victims of crime, many people accused of crime. I've had the hapless, the helpless, premiers, paupers, the foolish, the wise. And as a judge, you get the best seat in the house because it all unfolds before you.
What are the cases that have had the most profound effect on you?
Probably emotionally, the child death cases. The men, usually men, sometimes women, but usually men, who kill their children so that their partner won't have them.
How do you take the emotion out of that?
I think years of practice is the only thing I can think of. Occasionally cases get to you, but generally you're able to keep them in the background.
If we look at the case of Dante Arthurs, who was convicted of killing an 8-year-old girl, and that was a case that really rocked Perth. What did you see when you looked in his eyes?
When I looked in his eyes, I just saw an ordinary young man. The mark of Cain doesn't exist on people. Almost all of the murderers I have seen over the years look like the person next door, the man down the street. They just look ordinary.
And in that particular case, it did expose some police failings. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Arthurs allegedly interfered with a young girl 3 years earlier. The police made two significant errors. Firstly, they conducted an interview which went all against the rules and was inadmissible. And secondly, although they checked her clothes for DNA, they didn't check his. 3 years later, after Sophia was murdered, the police again broke the rules in relation to the interview, and another judge ruled that was inadmissible.
Had the police done their work properly 3 years earlier, do you think 8-year-old Sophia would be alive today?
It's impossible to tell. That's a big call. But certainly there's a possibility that might be the case, but who knows?
John McKechnie, you showed mercy to a woman who was referred to as Alice. Can you tell us what she did and why you sentenced her the way you did?
Alice was one of the sadder cases I've dealt with. She was married and had a child, and after 18 months, psychologically she parted from the child. Eventually she decided the only thing to do was to kill herself and the child. The baby was killed. She lived but was terribly broken, and she was charged with murder. Very sensible lawyers, Dave Dempster for the prosecution, Paul O'Brien for the defence, negotiated a plea of manslaughter. When she came before me, she'd been in custody for 11 months. There was nothing that I could do to punish her that she wasn't doing to herself. I sentenced her to the rising of the court. An unusual matter. I took the view that when law ends, mercy begins.
And so you literally had sentenced her for 30 seconds?
For 30 seconds, as long as it took for me to rise and leave the court. I hope she's rebuilt her life.
Your first trial as a prosecutor was a fatal family violence case. So was your last case as a judge. And you say tough laws won't change the scourge of family violence. So what will?
What will is a change of society attitude. Everybody has their part to play, of course, police particularly. They attend about 60,000 domestic violence call-outs a year. They are very difficult cases because the elephant in the room is very often the complainant will withdraw the complaint after the police have done work getting a case up. That might change now with new laws in the new evidence bill when it goes through. But it's a very complex issue, and at heart it's our community values. It's all of us on trial in domestic violence. What do we do when we hear neighbours screaming? Nothing, or do something. We can't put it all on police. We certainly can't put it all on courts. Courts are always there at the end of the process, not at the beginning.
If I look at some of the cases from the 80s and 90s, and you quote that the most dangerous place on earth was standing between Laurie Connell and a bag of money. If we look at that time, the people who fell foul of the law, Laurie Connell, Brian Burke, corruption in the racing industry, there was drug dealers like Frank LaRosa who were murdered, the fake gold nugget called the Yellow Rose of Texas. How do you describe that time in WA?
Well, it was a wild time to be in WA. It was a wild time to be a prosecutor. We had to mop up after WA Inc. Royal Commission, after Rothwell's collapsed. There was a lot of funny things that were going on in the early to mid 80s. And yeah, it was just a wild time, I think. I'm sad to see that Eileen Bond has just passed away, but Alan was a complete rogue.
Finally, John McKechnie, why do you name all your corruption investigations after lighthouses?
Because lighthouses stand tall in dark and stormy weather, and corruption is something that occurs in the dark, and we need a strong spotlight to search it out.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.